as a brand to go, this content isn't just a brand talking about a brand. Because when you scroll through your feed and you do see some things which are overly designed and you're clearly formatted from a brand guidelines, you can spot them in like nanoseconds that it's an ad, and you just scroll past it. So you kind of have to blend in with the formats and the way people are talking online and on those platforms. Go, oh, that's a format that they kind of get. That's what they expect to see on social media, and then surprise them within that to stand out. It's a really interesting thing. You've got to blend in, then stand out within that format.
Hi, welcome to another episode of SmartCraft. I'm Laurence and I'm here with Anthony Newsom, Head of Social at BBD, and we're talking about B2B social first. Let's start with the basics. When we say social first, what do we actually mean?
So I think social first is often seen as formats, and I think a lot of the things you see online are around formats and getting to the right, is it video the big thing here? Carousels are really picking up. Social first isn't a format, it's a way of thinking about social and thinking about creating content. So it's about making stuff that's engaging to an audience. I think social works best when you're either niche or you're novel. And you can do those both at the same time, but having the content through those two lenses and creating things in that way. But it comes from having a clear purpose above that, which is like, this is what social is doing for our brand and this is how we're measuring it. And if you do that and have the niche and novel lens underneath that, you can then start creating great content and having a really truly first social brand, even in B2B.
So the mistake is saying, well, we're doing social campaigns, so we're on LinkedIn,
Yes.
or we've got Insta ads or whatever it is. But that's the mechanic, that's the format, it's the medium. It's not necessarily that's social first thinking, that's format.
Exactly. And I think everyone as well, in B2B especially, think of it in terms of it's the brand page, it's what formats are trending, and it's sort of treated as another form of the brand talking to customers in the way that you would do in terms of push marketing. You go, this is what we want to talk about, these are our updates, these are our products. And I think to be truly social first in your thinking, it's going, well, no, what's the audience actually need? They're time poor, they need something from us, we need to give value to people. And I think the best content you see is giving you something, be that entertainment, be that information or things that you need to know and updates. It's giving you something, it's not taking your time from you. I think that's the exchange we need to think about. It's a channel where you are consuming content, but you're there for your own benefit. Social is about me, the consumer, not you, the brand.
You mentioned there about the brand page. So if it's not just the brand page, I mean, what else should we be considering?
I think, there is a big focus on the brand pages, and brand pages are still important, but you need to consider wider than that. So your execs are a big asset for your company. They used to have big followings, they have opinions and thoughts and gravitas within an industry. So using them in intelligent ways on LinkedIn to create content and amplify your brand messages is a really important factor. Your employees, again, are often overlooked. They have a lot more reach than brand pages. I think the stat is about 8 times more connections than a brand page for your employees. So they're a big asset that you can use and they're also the experts that people deal with on a day-to-day, and they humanize a brand as well. So getting them involved is other big part of it. For the B2B world, another massively overlooked part is sort of creators, and having them partnering with creators on a short and long-term basis to get that extra reach for your brand page content, and then using that brand page to sort of tie that all together in terms of the amplification of your employees, commenting on your employee stuff, commenting on your exec stuff, commenting on stuff that's happening within your industry to get yourself that increased visibility, because visibility on social is an incredibly important part of what you need to do.
So I guess we're talking slightly leaning towards LinkedIn when we say about the brand page. It's that brand is this, not cold, but it's the sterile part of the brand company, whereas your employees are the human ambassadors of that, and they really have far more reach. Did you say 8 times reach?
Yeah, your employees on average, as in a company, have about 8 times more connections than the brand itself. So using them, they can also have spicier opinions. They can create content that is more human, is more fun than maybe is constrained by a traditional B2B brand guideline. And I know that there are brands that were trying to get away from that sort of brand guidelines and stuck set in B2B, but it still does exist. They have it if they are empowered in the right way and given the right sort of license to create content and go, you are experts in this field, you have opinions, you have connections, you know what's being talked about here. If they can be unleashed to sort of create content as part of the brand, you can kind of get away with a bit more in terms of what you're saying, and it feels more genuine as well. You believe a person because you have a personal relationship with them. You tend not to believe a brand saying how good a brand is, because of course you're telling me how good you are. It'd be mad if you weren't. So it's far more believable. You go, oh, I know John. John's really smart and he's talking really sense and has done something quite funny. Oh, that's really good. That reflects well on his company.
So what you said made total sense there. The simple question is, why isn't everyone doing it? Why is the B2B not taking this and running with it?
Yeah, I think there is a desire to push that way from sort of social media managers you speak to in the B2B world. I think as organizations, B2Bs are maybe a bit more reluctant, just because, one, it seems a bit scary. There aren't many B2B brands who are really going out there in terms of being social first and having really strong opinions and really sort of subverting the way that B2B social media is done. There is definitely forays into that and people doing it quite well at the moment. So that's one thing. It's also not the way things are traditionally done. Like, we're used to building brands from B2B through quite logical, sort of evidence-based case making. It's white papers, it's long form content. They need meat, but they're not, people are still people, and people need entertainment, and people need to have those mental models of going like, oh, I need a B2B SaaS product that helps me do X or Y or Z. But people respond to personality. They remember brands that have a personality and say something around a product or service, and create a mental model or mental shortcut to go, when that thing happens, I need that brand because they create content around that. And if you stick in people's heads for the right reasons, and those reasons when people purchase, which is social is so good at doing if you do social content well, you can really make a huge leap versus your competitors in B2B marketing.
So you mentioned a number of reasons there. One of the factors I wanted to understand more about is, do you think the C-suite are brought into it? Are they the ones banging the drum demanding it, or are they slightly behind and wary of it?
I think attitudes are changing, and I think they're starting to see the potential of it as they're then personally starting to get a bit more attention on things like LinkedIn. That generation that are more likely to be a C-suite at the moment didn't grow up with the internet, don't feel native to social media in the same way as potentially people in sort of mid and lower levels of the organisation do. So there's a lot of trust to throw over. And even if you are sort of more fluent in there and more active CEO on LinkedIn or on other platforms, you're probably active for leadership and business content and understanding the niche of the internet that your audience is in. We're increasingly more an atomized ecosystem in terms of culture and media, and there's elements of the internet and social media that feel completely alien to me because it's not my world, and you have to go and really understand the language lexicon and what's going on there and the humor of that space. And other places I feel more at home and it's really more for me. And that's a really big thing to go like, hang on, there's this place that I don't quite understand with a corner that is increasingly niche and a bit scary, and their humor's a bit more unhinged and I don't quite get it. I don't really understand what's going on and how this is driving value for my business. However, that's where your audience are. And if you gave a CEO 10 years ago, you'd gone like, oh, you can have a spot on TV every Friday night and you can say it for 30 seconds and say whatever you want, they'd bite your hand off for it. And if you build a big social first brand in B2B, you can kind of have that. And I think that power is starting to be realised, hopefully, by B2B brands, but they really need to lead into it now.
I loved your gentle description of TikTok there. It was fantastically accurate.
But it is.
It's slightly unhinged, and I don't know if we should be there.
But like, I don't know, even like book talk feels like gentle, and I understand that. But then you get even just like one niche over there. It's like fantasy book talk. Like, I'm out. I don't understand anything that's going on here or what anyone is talking about. And like your video pops up. It's even just an adjacent niche. Yeah. Like I don't understand.
And I suppose that's the difference of where you had, if you say go back 10 years, I could get a TV spot for 10 minutes, talk about anything. You're right, you bite your arm off. Maybe more than 10 years ago, there were 4 channels, maybe there were 20 channels, but I knew what that channel stood for. I knew that Fox versus CNN versus BBC, so I could pick the space that was very culturally appropriate to what I wanted to do and said what the brand wanted to achieve, and I was broadcasting. No one's feeding back at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas now you've got an entirely different world that I go on there and anyone from anywhere can be served this content and anyone can have opinion on what I say. That's quite disarmingly.
Yeah, and you can feel very attacked very quickly if you get the wrong response on social media. And I think that's why B2B brands are very much safely in LinkedIn. They go, LinkedIn is a space for B2B conversations and B2B marketing.
We're all grown-ups here.
We're all grown-ups and we're all going to have a very good time. I mean, the stuff that goes viral on LinkedIn is often the most unhinged things you possibly can see because they sort of catch wind, and people are people. But the amount of time I think I was looking at today is the amount of time on average per day that people are on LinkedIn now is about 7 to 8 minutes a day. If you compare that to your Instagrams are around 29 minutes, and I think TikTok's are 52, 53, depending on your sources. So the amount of time that people are on LinkedIn is just so much lower. There's a real reticence for B2B brands to go, oh, we should go and play in the spaces where people are spending more time. I think as consumers, we're all kind of used to things popping up for work on our TikTok or Instagram or, God forbid, even Facebook, if I accidentally log on. But the brands are going, no, B2B is on LinkedIn and that's where that is. It's not true and it's not the case anymore. And I think that's one of the next big battles is to get B2B brands to go, right, we're going to go on TikTok and we're going to go and do niche and novel content. And yes, that's going to be a bit weird and a bit scary, especially on the novel side of things. Mm-hmm. The niche side, I mean, we all end up in places where you end up watching incredibly niche videos and going, well, I don't know why that's fascinating, but it absolutely is. And also getting stuff from our work on there. And that's probably a place that B2Bs will end up being a bit more comfortable in on LinkedIn and going like, here's our real nerds, and they're talking about these incredibly niche bits of it, but it shows how our depth of expertise. The novel is going to be the greater push, but very important for reach.
And is there an ecosystem? Is there a coalescence around? So here on B2B, we're safe and we're, there's the corporate stuff, or it's the experts and the EGC content we're putting out. Over there, we can be unhinged, but do they work as complementary ecosystems that you'd get attention there and then hope someone arrived in LinkedIn and had a look? Or are they, from what you've seen, just isolated islands that you get on one, you might not get on another?
I think that people will be on a smorgasbord of channels, and the mix will be different for different people. Some people are far more visual and like video content. Some people are more written content. And it also depends on their demographics and what they like and what they're into. Weirdly, content seems to travel between channels, and the stuff you see on LinkedIn, someone in our industry who's fascinated is like Robert Mayhew, who does all the memes and stuff around life in an agency. His content originates on TikTok, but it does incredibly well on LinkedIn. Like, when brands are going to get smart about this is when they go, there's a real way you can go, I'm going to go and test stuff in TikTok because I can get a lot of reach quite quickly. Yes, it's diminishing because it's becoming more saturated, but I can test things and see what works with my audience and works with people in the space, because that algorithm is so good at finding the right people based on the content you create. I can then sort of take those things, iterate on them, do a little bit different, put it onto Reels. I can then put that in a slightly edited way, a nuanced way onto LinkedIn. I can create written articles from that. I can create other content because I know the topic and the tone of it is engaging. So I can just tell that story in a number of different ways. And then I can elevate all the best stuff of that into paid and add my lead magnet on the end of it. There's just a smarter way we can do this and move it through the system, and also bring in our execs and our employees as part of that, and going like, what content's working for them, what's lifting off from that? Okay, can I take that and do that story in the same way? Can I obviously repost that, but can I tell that story in the same way, because that angle is obviously doing quite well.
Which is interesting, because I was going to say, when you've got a C-suite that potentially are a bit like, I don't understand it, it looks terrifying and it looks unhinged, and why would my brand be safe in that space, and why would I let other people talk about my brand in that way, in this unhinged manner? Thinking specifically TikTok in that space.
Yeah.
I was then thinking, okay, but the effort to go and create custom content for LinkedIn with 7 minutes viewing a day, and then go over to Insta and go, well, that's more visual, so I need and all the rest of that, and then go and do, that's quite a lot of effort to have 3 different camps of content work streams. But you're saying actually there is almost an adoption process of test here, nail it. People are still people. It's probably the same people in those different platforms. No one's distinctly only LinkedIn.
No.
So actually you can reach them across, and if it carries there, you can probably repurpose it, not start from scratch.
Absolutely. And I think, you got to get efficiencies in the way you do things. And with social, it's such an iterative process. I think so many conversations with my clients, we start off with like, I've got this big vision of where I want to get to, and we both do, and we both want to go, I want to get to here immediately, but you don't get to there immediately. You get, salami slices better, and it's always salami slices, and then you look back and go, oh, that was a whole sausage we managed to get through in that one go, in that year. And then, but by the time that year's gone, your taste is and where your ambitions are has risen again. Your taste always outruns your ability. That's what makes you better at what you do. But that journey with social is so fascinating, so true, and what I love so much about it. but like that's a journey that brands you have to go on and go, and this now happens forever. We're going to try and iteratively get better at this forever and ever and ever. And that process of creating content is going to be the same thing, but it's worth the investment because this is the biggest channel on earth now, social media. It's where people are spending an inordinate amount of their time. I think it's 2 hours 36 a day is the average consumption time of social media. And people say it's not addictive, but it's out eclipsing TV. It's the biggest ad spend on earth, overtaking Google a couple of years ago. Sorry, paid search ads, mainly Google, a couple of years ago. So it is where people's eyeballs are for now. So that's where your brands need to be and need to grow, be they B2B or B2C. You've got to go where the people are.
You talked really eloquently about why people should be there and the benefit of being there and the opportunity to be in a social first. There are brands that are doing it well. Do you want to give us a few snippets of who's out there smashing it?
So there's a big, real range of what people are doing. Sort of the high end of things are people like GoDaddy, who did Walton Goggins Goggles, which is an absolute mouthful, which is their big Super Bowl campaign, which was kind of pinned as their Super Bowl campaign. It was really activated through social, which is where they created this entire brand of Walton Goggins Goggles, which they launched using their GoDaddy products, so AI creation of websites, AI creation of social media content, and showed the power of that, along with the face of the brand, to create this entirely new outfit in there. That's sort of like the upper scale. Going, like, I'm showing you, which is great marketing, is when I show you the power of the product. I don't tell you the power of the power of the product. A sort of a lower end, people like in sort of marketing to marketers that sort of tend to be more innovative. HubSpot's to do some great stuff, for example. Lots of memes around social media managers and the pain points we all feel. Another one is SEMrush. I think recently have done some amazing stuff. They've kind of got this one face of the brand, Chris, who is their embattled social media digital marketing manager, who's become a real character online, has even managed to get the SEMrush tattoo on their body as part of a recent campaign on April Fool's Day, which is incredible sort of power of social media to create a real cult following around a brand, because there's not many B2B brands that would get people to tattoo their logo on their body.
So, I mean, they're pre-planned campaigns. They're very well orchestrated and very well managed. But how do brands get into space where they manage reactive content, where they're actually topical, something's going on, they want to be involved? How do you build speed into that model? Yeah,
it's a more difficult place for B2Bs because it's not, B2Cs are very used to that world. They've sort of set up for more reactive marketing because that's how they get attention in a very crowded space. In a B2B space, it's really important, and the use of memes is a really important tactic to start leveraging as B2Bs, because that can really play into people's pain points and get people's attention, and that humour can really connect to people. In terms of trends and what's going on, definitely in terms of news, so trending topics is a real big thing to be pulling out. I mean, I would say AI here just because we have to as part of the contractual agreement of this podcast. But having those trending topics in your industry and going, these are the things we need to be talking about because those are the concerns of the customers. And also, we work with the cybersecurity clients. There's lots of worries at the moment around security and third-party suppliers. So that's really emphasising content. It's also ransomware season at the moment, as we all know. Hence all the big...
It was nice to have a season.
It was nice to have a season, isn't it? Yeah, malware September, whatever it is. But it's good to create content around those seasonal spikes and create those seasonal spikes, these seasonal trends that people are seeing in their work life as well. I wouldn't be jumping on Taylor Swift's engagement, for example, unless I had something incredibly relevant to say. Maybe I was De Beers or something. But there is a thing where culture and getting just attention for attention's sake can be a good tactic if you're a really startup challenger brand and you need to get attention in a B2B, in a B2C space. In a B2B, if I knew that all my fans were massive Swifties, unlikely to be a niche demographic, then it could be something I jump on because I go, oh, that's actually an interest of that audience. But
so this isn't trend jacking or news jacking just to be in the noise.
You have to be smarter and more precision about it and going, right, I can use trending mechanics, I can use trending sort of formats to try and get my points across and sort of blend into that feed. It's kind of a weird thing with social media is you kind of got to blend in as a brand to go, this content isn't just a brand talking about a brand. Because when you scroll through your feed and you do see some things which are overly designed and you're clearly formatted from a brand guidelines, you can spot them in like nanoseconds that it's an ad, and you just scroll past it. So you kind of have to blend in with the formats and the way people are talking online, and on those platforms, go, oh, that's a format that they kind of get. That's what they expect to see on social media, and then surprise them within that to stand out. It's a really interesting thing. You've got to blend in, then stand out within that format.
Which you don't make it sound easy, and you only got nanoseconds
yes.
to try and get that judgment right before someone scrolls past you and just ignores you anyway.
Absolutely, and you learn that judgment over time, and that judgment is different for different brands and different audiences and what they're into and how they react to content. And it's, you can't use, when I started out in advertising many moons ago, there was a lot more intuition in terms of what worked and what felt right to the brand and the people working on it. Yes, there was data, but not in the way that we're getting it now. And you get huge feedback, like based on, you post something on TikTok, one flies, the other doesn't, and you've got to try and. The interesting thing is you've got all the data, it's figuring out why, and then trying to figure out amongst all those numbers that you get on everything, is trying to figure out the coherent story to go, what is actually working with my audience, what is resonating, is it actually with my audience, or is it just getting traction somewhere else? It's a complicated thing, but you get there through those salami slices. It is a process of going, did that work, how'd that work, what's it going on there? And those numbers, especially for organic social, I think it's hard for C-suite to work out because it's not necessarily ROI. And I think that's where performance marketing, as much as I absolutely love performance marketing, is sort of proving better ROI, and that's why it's been favoured, because they go, well, I put my money in, and that's my cost per lead, and I get my lead, and I got a conversion rate of that for my leads. It's so much.
There's my Super Bowl slot.
Yeah.
Spent the money, got the eyeballs.
Yeah, it's safer. And I think organic is like, it's one, it's iterative. Two, it's sort of going, what's my exact ROI for this? And you're kind of going, I don't know, but it's brand building. And it's nice that brand building conversation is coming back round, because I think performance marketing is incredibly important. And if you're not doing it well, you're screwed as a brand. But that brand layer has kind of been forgotten a little bit, and you kind of go, I've got to make people feel something about, SaaS products. You do have to make people feel something.
So there's all the positives there on, I mean, it doesn't sound easy. You've got overwhelmed with data. You've got to blend in, stand out, be interesting, be relevant, be authentic. So there's a whole list of...
Exactly, briefed.
And then, just make that, do that.
And still apply for brand guidelines and improve your ROI.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, so when all of that comes together, you can see why there's a hesitation to go, I've got to get all these things right.
Yeah.
What about when I get it wrong? What is the fear factor of a C-suite or a social first approach where you go, if I get this wrong,
I think
it's going to be noticed.
It will get noticed. Only if you get it wrong in a really sort of over the top way. I think that we all think of the big things where people put their foot in it for the wrong reasons and use something that ends up having a double meaning, or really offending some people. We go, oh, that's the line. More often you fail by just not getting noticed. And I think the bigger danger for B2Bs now is they're going, well, I don't want to offend people, and I don't want to get this blast of backlash from whatever we're doing. You kind of have to go, well, that's part of it. And if you're lucky enough to get to that level, at least you've had the impact with people. More things die because no one's interested and it's quite dull. And I think B2Bs are in the space where, by being safe, someone in your industry will eventually go, I'm going to change the industry in terms of how we market this. And then you're all going to have to try and catch up. Yeah. And that's a harder place to be. Is with, I wouldn't want to be Duolingo's competitor, because can you name a Duolingo competitor? I can't.
No,
They're just because we all know Duolingo.
So being out front and tripping and failing isn't, in your mind, as dangerous as being 10 miles behind and in obscurity.
No, and I think that could be really easily sort of mitigated to an extent by internal teams working together and go, right, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to say? That's number one. And two, going like, what are the legal barriers to this? I think the constant one that always comes up is around memes, and whether they're, can we use, every client has a different view on whether they can use memes, whether they can use trending sounds, whether they can use that sort of thing. And it's working closely with your legal department to go, what is your company willing to risk? Because that's probably the side that is the more worrying. I mean, and if you work with comms as well, to go, getting some oversight of what your overall messaging are, you're probably not going to fall too far. I don't think many B2B marketers are going to go, right, we're going to jump on something fairly mad.
But then, I mean, even a stumble in social, which is very visible, if you happen to be at a Coldplay gig, I mean, that was a masterclass in leveraging that at speed through social to elevate themselves and suddenly be worth an awful lot more money.
Yes, yeah, it ended up working out well for the company, but not the individuals involved. I think it's, I don't think it would be a tactic I'd pitch. And it's one of those weird moments where that meme, it reminded me of the old internet where everyone sort of came together of like, everyone had seen it, everyone knew what it was very easily replicable. I was at a festival the week after and they had a Coldplay Kiss cam already going around.
Wow.
And everyone knew exactly what to do regardless of age. They knew the exact reaction to give. Yes, I think that then you get into the debates, is any publicity bad publicity? That's a debate to be had, and there is probably a space for a B2B brand to go out there and could be offensive and decide that's the place they're going to stay and they're going to be very anti something else. I don't think it will happen for a good while, but they would probably stand out in the market and probably get a lot of business off the back of it. I think the beisier things are, the less people care, and it all becomes quite transactional in terms of what people are doing, and they seem fine, whatever, move on. But I don't think that's the place that B2Bs want to be if they want to stay around for the long term.
Thought leadership is obviously something we spend a lot of time working with our clients on and developing content and elevating certain people. Now tell us more about where that fits into a social first approach.
It has a real benefit for a couple of reasons. Number one, these are sort of people who are excelling in their field at the sort of top of organisations. They tend to have quite strong opinions about what's going on and great insights into how this business works across them and their competitors, and a vast range of insight. And that reach they have because they've connected into all the people and the customers is a real valuable asset for your brand. So using them, one, as a spokesperson as you would in any sort of PR way, but creating their own sort of personal LinkedIn brand and the things they talk about, one, can help feed your PR efforts, but two, can get you a lot more visibility on social media. Thought leadership is the thing that like LinkedIn loves more than anything else. So actionable insights and things that present real learned experiences are the things that LinkedIn loves the most. I think the stat is, of the top 500 LinkedIn newsletters, I think all but 10 are from people rather than brands, and people connect with people. So having those people as the sort of conduit of that information is a real sort of strength to your brand, and as long as you tie it back into your brand. The second benefit is, if they get successful, if they understand the power of this to sort of get their message out there and their brand out there as individuals, they kind of get it for the brand itself, and how that really needs to be a platform that is core to who your brand identity is. So by having those sort of two things working alongside each other, and also if they've got if we've got a well-engaged employee base as well, one, the employee base will be commenting on the C-suite stuff and liking the C-suite stuff because it's one, it's good for their careers, and two, if you don't know what the C-suite is staying, you're probably a bit behind in terms of your organisation. And just that anecdotal thing of people going, oh, I saw that post you did on LinkedIn the other week. I've had it so many times where that is sort of like the biggest thing that's happened in their world that week, and that's a really cool thing to happen. But they kind of get it for the rest of the brand then and go, oh, this has a real value in terms of getting our eyeballs out there.
So twofold or threefold benefit. One, you've got LinkedIn laps it up and wants it. If you have a face, if you have a C-suite face, I'm connected to a person, the brand halo impact is a benefit. But also it kind of leads the way for employees to go, let's shout about the product or the service or the brand that we all work with. Yeah,
there's definitely some permission in there as well. If you see that your C-suite are active on social media and posting stuff and having opinions and saying things, and then they go, well, you're empowered to do this as well, you kind of believe it more because that C-suite's out there doing it. And if you're doing the C-suite stuff well, you can then get people, the C-suite engaging with the employee content as well and sharing some tidbits from there, which has a real halo effect in the organisation. You go, oh, that's a team that's kind of coherently working together, because they're having discussions openly on a LinkedIn post.
And not to undermine it, I mean, the C-suite is kind of busy.
Yes.
Got a lot going on. Managing their LinkedIn, where there's only 7 minutes of viewership a day, it is vital. But that's why I suppose we spend a lot of time working on their profiles and creating content that is as close to them as possible. It is the things they'd say, it's just they don't have time to go and commit and engage and interact. but it is hugely valuable.
Yeah, they don't have to do it all, and the way it works with different C-suite members is very different. Some we've had where they would just, you have a call once a month and they spew out a load of different things that are happening in the industry they wanted to talk about. You get the press stuff that they've been involved with or any interviews they've been given, and you kind of turn that into a load of content for them out of that. In terms of managing that commenting side of things, some of them love it and are very active on it and do not want to give it up at all. Others have teams of and their own comms people who help them, support them with the amount of content and stuff that they need to be managing and comments, and others allow us to sort of help them on part of it as part of it as well.
So if brands wanted to be social first, what are the key things they should be coming in tomorrow morning and attacking first off?
Yeah, I think the first thing is having a clear purpose for what you're doing on social media. I think a lot of people go like, well, we need to do stuff, and that's how you get the brand out there. But even if it's by channel or social media as a whole, going, that's the thing I want to do as a brand. I always use the Ryanair example because I've never heard it articulated better. I know they're a B2C brand, but there's two objectives for our social media accounts. One is to lower expectations, to reduce complaints, and two, to be top of mind when people book flights, they come to Ryanair first. Now, having that crystallized and go, that's the thing we need to communicate to people. If you give that to a social media team, it's such a joy to then create content off the back of that, because you can be so focused on those clear goals. The second is to experiment and go like, this is a journey we're going to go on, and it's going to go up and go down, but like, we're going to try and push it in loads of different ways and try those things that seem a bit off the wall and go, I'll give it a go and see if it flies. If it doesn't, you leave it and you move on. And the third is like, it's fun. It's an entertainment platform. And I think we all forget that. People go onto social media to waste time. It's basically replaced TV, newspapers, radio, any sort of form of human physical contact. So like, if you're fighting in a space where people are just there to consume content, you've got to play in that space and go, it is a playful place, like, have fun.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.